Hey folks, welcome to another Triple T Thursday. For those just joining us, that's Tools, Tips, and Talk, where we'll discuss info for the knife maker. In today's episode, I'm going to discuss all the Instagram woes that knife makers have encountered over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. I'll give you my take on it and maybe what you can do about it. Then we're going to go into sharpening the sword that I'm working on, my latest project, this U.S. Navy officer's sword. I'm going to show you how I sharpen that on the Perfect Blade sharpening attachment. Let's get right into it. Okay, so let's talk about Instagram. So Instagram, if you're not aware, for knife makers has just gone crazy in the last week and a half or 2 weeks and has been just reporting posts at fucking Jesus Christ. So let's talk about Instagram. So if you're not aware, for the last week and a half, Instagram has been reporting all kinds of people's accounts as restricted, meaning you can't, for fuck's sakes. So let's talk about Instagram. In the last week and a half or 2 weeks, Instagram algorithm has gone a bit crazy. And a whole bunch of knife makers, I don't know if it's the majority, but a whole ton of knife makers are getting notifications basically pointing to this. That says your account has been restricted to followers only. So none of your posts will be seen by non-followers. Well, that's a big problem. If you're trying to, promote your small business, you're trying to gain followers, you're trying to show things to non-followers. So we don't know what's going on. So there is a way to check what is offending the Instagram algorithm. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So you go to your profile, you go up to the top to this hamburger menu, you click that, then you go into settings, which is the top one, and then you scroll all the way down to the bottom to account status. And inside account status, hopefully you see 4 check marks. If you don't, there's something wrong. As you can see, I've got some content that they think is not okay to be recommended. So if I go into that, I can see the posts that it's complaining about. Most of these are on weapons violations. And we're going to get into the guidelines, and I'm going to show you what the guidelines say, but it's confusing what they're talking about here. And incidentally, if I click on any of these right now, I get an error in Instagram, and once you're on this screen, you can't go back because it just doesn't let you. You need to quit Instagram and load it again. So they got some bugs to fix over in the Instagram world. But let's talk about guidelines, because I've done hours of research into what the guidelines are to see if I'm breaking them. So first, let's talk about what are the kinds of guidelines we need to be concerned about on Instagram. Well, there's 3. There's the community guidelines, which are the guidelines everybody has to follow. There's the recommendation guidelines. So those are the guidelines if you want your posts and content to be recommended to others. And then there's this branded content recommendations, or branded content policies, actually. And we'll get into that one because that does have some verbiage about weapons. But first, let's talk about the first 2. So the community guidelines and the recommendation guidelines themselves mention nothing about bladed weapons, knives, nothing. They do reference the controlled goods, another document. Both of them reference the same document. And it does have some verbiage about bladed weapons. So I want to go into the history of when that was added, what it says, and what we need to be concerned about. Let's talk about the 3 sections in this controlled goods document. There is a do not post section, meaning anything under the do not post, meaning any of those points. If you do any of those things, they're going to remove your post. Do not post any of that. Then there's a section for if you do any of these things, your post will be restricted to 21 and over. And there's a third category that if you do any of these things, your post will be restricted to 18 and over. So let's go back into the history. So I went back into their change log and after a couple hours figured out what was added when. So July 1st, 2019, this was added. This mentions basically the purchase of knives or any content about knives is restricted to 21 and over. Okay. I'm not sure that means that it's going to get flagged by the algorithm because it's been there for 4 years. So I assume that they're just not going to recommend that content to a user that is under 21. Makes sense. On April 30th, 2020, okay, that content was moved to the 18 and over. So it was made more restrictive. And it was simplified. So you can see it here. It basically says content which attempts to buy, sell, trade, donate, or gift bladed weapons can only be shown to 18 and over. Okay, seems fine to me. And that hasn't changed in over 3 years. So I can't find anything in the guidelines that says that we cannot show bladed weapons or swords or anything of that matter. The only place that I found scouring Instagram is the following, which is under branded content policies. And this is only if you're using the branded content tool. And most people are not doing this on their posts, so this doesn't really apply. So in short, I don't understand what rules or guidelines we're breaking and why the algorithm is reporting this. I'd love to talk to someone at Instagram as to why. So keep appealing, folks, and hopefully we can get them to change this or fix the bug. I have heard that for Reels, they are analyzing the cover page only, meaning the cover. So don't put a picture of the blade on the cover shot of your Reel, because you can control that. Make it something else. Make it your logo. Make it something innocuous. Hopefully you'll get past the appeal that way. Don't add anything in. They're going to read your... the algorithm reads your description, it reads your hashtags. I've been concerned with knife porn as a hashtag that I know some people use sometimes. Anything that says porn, they're probably going to look at. And I know people are getting flagged for sexual things. I've been flagged for that as well. I do not use knife porn as a hashtag, so I don't know where they're getting any of that. I think the algorithm is just going haywire right now. Hopefully they fix this and we get past it. All right, enough about Instagram. Let me go down to the table and show you the sword that we're going to sharpen. So here's what we're going to be sharpening today. This is the U.S. Navy officer sword. Tune in this Saturday for the build video on this guy. So it's time to sharpen this one. We'll be using the Perfect Blade sharpening attachment for this. If you're not familiar with the Perfect Blade sharpening attachment, it's basically a tool arm that slides into your tool rest receiver, goes into any 1.5 inch receiver. It's got 2 arms with these adjustable knobs here to let you pivot them. And then the bars, this one is a guide bar to let you make sure you maintain the same angle, and this one is just a pivot. So, simple modification for swords. And I should mention that the length of the blade you can do with the stock Perfect Blade attachment is the length of this bar. Okay, because you're going to be going back and forth. If you want to do longer blades, what I do is I'll take this bar, move it down here, and then put a new longer bar. This one, this is a 36-inch bar, and I'll just replace this one up here. Now I can do blades that are 36 inches long. I've done my recent katana on this system, and today we're going to be doing this 30-inch sword. So here I am making the adjustments, And note that you don't really need to replace the top bar, you just need to replace the short one and then flip it over. People have asked me if I'm going to carry these longer bars, but honestly, the shipping is more expensive than it would cost you to go get one at a local store. So just go buy one. Okay, so here it is set up on the machine. You'll notice that the bar is a little askew this way. So all I'm going to do is shorten this bar, meaning I'm just gonna push this in. It's happened to be going behind my platen, which is just fine. If you were hitting the side of the platen, you would just extend it on this side. But for me, that's about right. I'm gonna tighten this up. I'll check my angles and we'll be ready to go. Now it's just a matter of running it across the belt. I just have my hands here for 2 points of contact just to make sure I have control. You really don't need to press on it. The weight of the sword itself will sharpen it. My belt progression for a never before sharpened blade is 120, 320, 600, 1200, and then stropping with the leather belt. Thanks for joining me, folks. If you want to get your own perfect blade sharpening attachment, you can get them at my website at housemade.us, or if you're up in Canada, you can get them at Maritime Knife Supply, or in Europe, you can get them at DIY Europe. Thanks for joining me, folks. See you on the next one.